If you don't listen to me, we're getting a divorce. I'd rather divorce a husband who says such selfish things. I accept the divorce that my husband dealt me. He looks at me with a smug smile, not knowing what will happen next. My name is Emily. I got married 5 years ago, and I'm 35, living just with my husband. Although I'd like to have children, we've not been blessed yet. We've considered fertility treatments, but due to my husband's opinion, we decided not to pursue them, leaving it to nature. If we can't have them, it's still a life living, just the two of us. My husband said that, and it helped to ease my mind a bit. After we got married, both of my husband's parents passed away, one after another, which left us no time for treatments. Truth be told, my husband is quite dominant. My husband was originally senior at work. In front of relatives, he'd refer to me as his foolish wife, and if I made a mistake, he'd scold me without mercy. Since our relationship was hierarchical before marriage, it continued even after marriage. This may make my husband sound like a bad person. He has his gentle side too. When I was his subordinate, he gave me accurate advice and guidance when I made mistakes or when things didn't go well, and he'd express his appreciation for my hard work. More importantly, he was the one who encouraged me when my beloved grandfather passed away and I was feeling down. This led us to start dating and eventually got married. After getting married, I retired and am now a full-time housewife. Hey Emily, I'm home. Welcome home. My husband usually gets home after 9 p.m. Being a manager, he has a lot of work and is almost always in overtime. You're late again today. You must be tired. I pick up the shirt and socks that my husband has taken off and talk to him. He just sits on the sofa and doesn't say a word. It's always like this. He must be really tired. I start preparing dinner for him, and when I finish serving him, he begins to eat without a word. After he finishes eating, in about 10 minutes, he heads to the bathroom. I prepare a bath towel and underwear for him and start cleaning up after dinner. And when he comes out of the bath, he goes straight to the bedroom. My husband has always been a man of few words, but I wonder if the recent promotion has been building up his fatigue. For the past year or so, there's been very little conversation between us. But even so, I trust and love my husband. Because he was the one who was with me when I had the hardest time. I lost my father in middle school and my mother in my freshman year of high school. Afterwards, I was taken in by my grandfather and raised by him. My grandfather, who treated me like his own daughter and loved me dearly. I adored my warm and kind grandfather. I wanted to give back to my grandfather when I started working. With that thought, I saved money after getting a job, took my grandfather on trips, and shared delicious meals with him. The time I spent with my grandfather was enjoyable, and I wished for him to stay healthy and energetic forever. However, 3 years after I started working, my grandfather passed away from lung cancer. I was literally left all alone. I knew I would have to part with my grandfather someday, but I didn't expect it to come so soon. Wished I could have done more for my grandfather. We could have spent more time together. I was so sad, spending every night crying. The person who noticed my change was my then boss, my husband. My husband genuinely listened to me, saying, "You've been through a lot. You did well." I was truly lucky to have him as my boss. Normally a stern and intimidating boss, my husband was gentle with his words at that time. I'm sure he is a kind man deep down. I know that. That's why I want to continue to serve him. I think so. On such a day off in the afternoon, the home phone rang. Hello? Oh, Emily, it's me. The caller was my husband's younger brother. Oh, long time no see. What's up? I need to speak to my brother. Is he around? Sure, hold on a sec. I called out to my husband, who was lounging in the living room. You have a phone call? As expected, there was no response. Without a word, my husband took the phone. Hello? Hey, how are you? What's up? His face, which had been soured just a moment ago, immediately turned into a smile when he picked up his brother's call. My brother-in-law, who was 15 years younger than my husband. Perhaps because of the age gap, my husband dotes on him a lot. I hear that he is living a blissful life with his beautiful wife he got 2 years ago. But I wonder what's up. Ah, is that so? So, are you okay? The tone of my husband's voice completely changed to a serious one. I wonder what's going on. Well, if you're ever in trouble, just tell me, okay? I'm your big brother after all. With that, my husband hung up the phone. What happened? Is something wrong? My brother, he seems to have been laid off. What? Laid off? I was surprised. I never expected something like this to happen. Yeah, I heard the company was struggling, but I didn't expect him to be laid off. My husband sat down on a chair, looking downcast. I was also unable to hide my shock. My brother-in-law is the exact opposite of my husband. He is gentle, calm, and always humble. He treats me with respect as his sister-in-law, and even when my husband insults me in front of our relatives, he would defend me, saying, "Bro, that's not fair to Emily," and never fails to show consideration for me by apologizing. Sorry, Emily, for my brother's rude behavior. His wife is also a similar type of person, and I had a good impression of them as a couple. And now he has been laid off. I started to think about what I could do for my brother-in-law and his wife. I want to help them, wanted to support them, even little. That's what I'm determined to do. Hey, isn't there something I can do? I asked my husband. He gave me a sharp look. What do you mean by something? Well, I was thinking, can't we do something to make your brother feel even a little better? At my words, my husband sighed heavily. You really are a hopeless woman. You, who haven't been out in the society, wouldn't understand this. He's going through the toughest time right now. To casually say if there's something we can do, outsiders should keep quiet. His aggressive attitude took me by surprise. I'd meant well, but it seemed I'd rubbed him the wrong way. Outsider? Aren't I a part of the family too? I asked my husband, almost pleadingly. Family? You're my wife, not my brother's. Unrelated. Outsider. His words struck me like a knife to the heart. I'd never seen my husband this aggressive before. His brother being laid off must have been a tremendous shock to him. But there are things you can and can't say. Just don't do anything unnecessary, he said before he walked out the door. After that, he became even more oppressive towards me. What's with this meal? Learn from my brother's wife. What did you do all day today? My brother's wife always keeps herself tidy and manages the household work perfectly, he barked. I'd never seen him be so unreasonable. I wondered what on earth had happened. Enough! What on earth happened to you? I finally snapped back at my husband. Shut up! Everything's a mess because of you, he blurted out, making no sense. I didn't know where to start with him. Before long, we weren't even making eye contact, and the gap between us was growing wider and wider. I began to question my relationship with my husband. One day, my husband started sorting out things in the morning. Like a thorough cleaning, he was sorting necessary and unnecessary items, steadily increasing the number of garbage bags. I wondered what he was up to. But our relationship had grown cold lately. I didn't have the energy to speak to him, so I didn't intervene in his. But unusually, he spoke to me. Hey, what are you doing? You should start packing too. Huh? Packing for what? We're moving out. I'm giving this house to my brother and his wife. What? What are you talking about? I found out that he intended to give the house where we were living to my unemployed and struggling brother-in-law and his wife. Wait a minute. Why are you doing this all of a sudden? Shut up! Don't defy me! My husband shouted at me loudly, but I didn't back down. You said you wanted to do something for your brother, didn't you? That's a completely different issue. What are we supposed to do if we hand over the house? Where are we going to live? We'll figure that out later. My brother's in trouble right now, and as his elder brother, I need to help him. My husband was moving the conversation along entirely on his own. To begin with, my brother-in-law was not the kind of person to kick us out and move into someone else's house brazenly. Despite this, why? As I gave my husband a suspicious look, he handed me something. If all you're going to do is talk back, you're of no use to me anymore. We're getting a divorce. Get out of here, right now. He threw at me the divorce papers already filled out. I couldn't believe he was proposing divorce. Stunned by my husband's unexpected move, I could only stand there. And yet, it felt strangely appropriate. I didn't feel like we could continue as a couple, even if we stayed together. Maybe this is a good opportunity. I picked up the divorce papers that had fallen to the floor and signed them, without a word. My husband was watching me with a triumphant smile. His expression was so comical that I almost burst out laughing. When I had finished filling out the divorce papers, I turned to my husband. This house isn't yours, is it? Huh? This house is the one I lived in with my grandfather. And the land was his too. They both passed down to me, remember? At this, it was my husband's turn to be stunned. If it's in my name, how are you going to hand it over? Huh? How are you going to? I pressed my husband with questions. No. I mean, my husband suddenly became flustered. Did you forget? You moved into my house before we got married because you thought it was a waste to pay rent. I've been paying the property taxes on the house and land every year because they're in my name, and you haven't given me a penny. Well, it doesn't matter anymore. Once these papers are filed, our divorce will be finalized, and we'll be strangers. Wait a minute. Let's calm down. Calm down? That's my line. You're handing out divorce papers like it's nothing. How selfish can you be? It's unbelievable. I unloaded all my pent-up frustrations on my husband. I loved my husband, and I thought he loved me too, but maybe that was just my misunderstanding. I never expected the end of our marriage to come so quickly. Emily, wait. This is a misunderstanding. Let's have a talk. Talk about what? You were the one who brought up divorce first, weren't you? I've had enough of you. Saying this, I carefully put away the filled-out divorce papers. It's a holiday today, and I'll submit them first, tomorrow morning. My husband lay on the floor in a daze. No, this can't be, he muttered. I said coldly, without any sympathy, This is my house. Please leave immediately. Once the papers are filed, we'll be strangers. I can't live under the same roof with a stranger. My husband grumbled until the moment he left, but I did not waver at all. After all, he's a stranger now. There's no need to show any mercy. Even when my husband cried and clung to me, I didn't feel anything. And then my husband left the house as if resigned to his fate. News of my divorce from my husband spread quickly at his company. He was immediately looked down upon at work, I heard. Rumors about the reasons for our divorce and my husband's behavior throughout our married life spread in great detail. It seemed my husband had entirely lost his place at his company. I really wonder who started and propagated these rumors. All I did was answer the questions his colleagues and subordinates asked me, and nothing more. Then, about 6 months after our divorce, I ran into a person I'd rather not see when I was returning from the real estate agency. It was my husband. Well, since we're divorced, he's my ex-husband now. It seemed like he had been lying in wait for me to come out of the agency. The whole situation was quite unsettling. Even when I tried to ignore him, he continued to follow me persistently. Finally, out of patience, I reluctantly agreed to talk with him. Enough! If you have something to say, just say it quickly. Emily, I've always despised you, he declared. What? His sudden proclamation left me baffled. It turned out he had been blaming me for his brother's layoffs. Huh? Why would that be my fault? Ever since we got married, bad things just kept happening, he insisted. Indeed, after we got married, unfortunate events, like his parents passing away and him getting injured, occurred. But his father was already hospitalized before we got married, and his mother was always frail. His injury was a result of his own drunken clumsiness. He tripped over a curb and broke his wrist. Still, in his mind, it seemed like I was the person responsible for all the misfortune. So you think I was the cause of all the misfortune, and that's why you hated me? I always thought you were just a bit awkward, but you were simply despising me, huh? I was thoroughly exasperated with him. He just kept blaming everyone else without taking any responsibility. There was no basis for his accusations. I couldn't believe someone like him managed to be a supervisor at his company. I began to worry about his subordinates, fearing they might be unjustly criticized for no reason. When did this reliable superior turn into such a person? And I felt a bit pitiful for having been married to someone like him. But even after divorcing you, bad things have kept happening to me. What kind of bad things? At my question, he rolled up his sleeves. There were exposed, painful-looking burns from a fire. Actually, my apartment burned down 3 months ago. But that's not all. I lost my wallet, making mistakes at work. Plus, my brother's been acting cold to me, and hasn't been in touch recently. So even after we split, his misfortunes continued. Well, that's to be expected. To be honest, hearing such stories doesn't make me feel sympathetic or sorry for him at all. After all, these are all consequences of his own actions, and I have nothing to do with them. Please, Emily, come back to me. I can't do it without you, okay? We've been a couple for so long. Didn't I take care of various things when you were still a working woman? And didn't I help you so much when your grandfather passed away? Didn't I? Looking at this man in front of me, trying to guilt trip me, I felt a chill run down my spine. All your misfortunes are from your actions that took. Maybe you should take a good look at yourself and do something about your bad habit of blaming others for everything. With that, I walked away from him. Emily! Wait up! Emily! Emily! My ex-husband was trying to catch my attention, calling out my name. I pretended not to know him and disappeared into the crowd. In fact, about a week after our divorce, I received a call from my brother-in-law. Or rather, my former brother-in-law. Emily, well, you're not my sister-in-law anymore, aren't you? Sorry, but it's about my brother. According to what my former brother-in-law told me, the decision to give up the house to his brother was my ex-husband's own choice. He and his wife had no idea about it. My brother has always been prideful. It's always worried me. His attitude towards you, Emily, was terrible. My wife and I felt so sorry watching it all. He truly is a kind-hearted person. I wonder how two brothers could be so different. I don't know if it's okay to say this, but I think it was good that you divorced. I want you to be happy, Emily. Thank you. I'm glad to hear you say that. Then he told me he found a job quite soon and that he was somehow making ends meet. I'm so glad for him. I'm thinking about distancing myself from my brother. I guess my former brother-in-law must have had his own thoughts about it. He intends to gradually lose contact with his brother, my ex-husband. The reason why my ex-husband couldn't reach his real brother was because of this. My ex-husband, who divorced his wife and was estranged from his beloved younger brother, was truly alone. I hope he realizes the weight of the mistakes he's made. But before that, I need to disappear from his sight. On the day I met my ex-husband again, I had just signed a contract with a real estate agent to rent out the house I inherited from my grandfather. The house is too big for me, but I can't just let go of the house full of memories with my grandfather. I'd rather have someone who wants to live there reside in it. I'll change my cell phone number and where I live and completely cut off my relationship with my ex-husband. I'm only 35 years old. I still have a long life ahead of me.
My name is Michael. I met my wife Amanda through a friend's introduction. She was cheerful and sociable, and we immediately hit it off when we first met. As we went out for meals a few times, I started to have feelings for Amanda and began dating her. After dating for about 2 years, we both started thinking about marriage, began living together, and registered our marriage the following year. We had a grand wedding, thinking it's a once-in-a-lifetime event. Our mutual friends performed some entertaining acts, making the ceremony memorable. Married life was pure happiness. We both worked, but Amanda's job did require much overtime, so she always came home first and prepared dinner for us. "Michael, welcome home. Today's dinner is pork cutlet." Knowing that I loved meat, Amanda cooked meat dishes 3 times a week, considering a balanced diet. All of Amanda's homemade meals were delicious, and I truly felt lucky to have her as my wife. That is, until that time. It happened one day, almost 3 years into our marriage. I started to notice that something was off with Amanda. She no longer cooked dinner and waited for me, and she often went out after work, leaving me alone at home. Previously, even when I came home late from work, there would be a homemade meal on the table, but now it was mostly frozen food or supermarket dishes, which made me feel somewhat lonely. However, Amanda also worked, and I was busy at work, making it hard for us to spend time together. I told myself that she probably wanted her own time while I was working overtime, and I didn't consider her feelings enough. This went on for about 2 months, and I finally decided that I needed to change something. As my work had calmed down, I took some paid leave and planned to go to a hot spring with Amanda. When I came home, Amanda was lying on the sofa reading a fashion magazine. I hadn't heard her say welcome home recently. Amanda, I took some time off work, the week after next. How about we go to a hot spring and relax together? Without taking her eyes off of the magazine, Amanda replied, No, I don't feel like it. I couldn't understand her response and was momentarily at a loss for words. Because I had researched various accommodations and nearby restaurants, planning to present her with a travel plan. Hey, I've been so busy lately that I couldn't pay attention to you, right? I thought you might be lonely without me, so I wanted us to go to the hot spring together and spend some quality time together. I thought Amanda would also be unhappy with our current situation. I wanted to create some time for us and rebuild our good relationship. However, Amanda's response didn't change. It's totally fine the way it is now. Even if you're not around, I have things to do. Don't worry about it. In the end, her gaze remained fixed on the magazine. I couldn't figure out why Amanda would act this way, and I went to sleep that night with a heavy heart. I didn't sleep well, and the next morning I left the house with an awkward atmosphere between us. But since I couldn't focus on work, I decided to consult a coworker during lunch break. Hey, can I talk to you for a bit? It's not really a fight, but I had this thing with my wife yesterday. Could she be cheating on you? I mean, you don't have any other clear reasons, right? I can't think of any other reason for her to suddenly become so cold. Cheating. The word echoed heavily in my mind. I never thought that this could happen to Amanda, but once a third party said that she was cheating, my suspicion grew and my health started to deteriorate. That day, I couldn't focus on my work and decided to leave early. When I got home, I went straight to the bedroom, took off only my suit jacket without changing into my home clothes, and collapsed onto the bed. There was still some time before Amanda would come home. I decided to sleep until then, and felt a little more at ease in the cool, dimly lit room with my eyes closed. Because I hadn't slept well the night before, I quickly became drowsy and was almost half asleep when I heard the front door close, and the sound of a woman's laughter, and multiple people entering the house. I woke up and listened carefully to the noises. I could tell the voice was Amanda's. At first, I thought she had come home. But when I heard an unfamiliar male voice, my suspicion of her cheating grew. I could hear footsteps approaching the bedroom where I was, and my heart raced rapidly. No! Amanda said that while opening the bedroom door. She hadn't expected me to be there and looked surprised for a moment, but then spoke in a mocking tone. Oh, Michael, why are you here? I wasn't feeling well, so I left work early and went to bed. Weren't you supposed to be at work, Amanda? I took a paid day off and went out. Amanda said that without showing any concern for my health, and glanced at the tall man standing behind her with his arm around her shoulder. You went out. I wanted to tell the man not to touch my wife, but I felt nauseous and had a headache, so I could only say that weakly. Well, you already know, right? I'm cheating on you with this guy, and it's all your fault, so I won't apologize. Amanda stood defiantly, with her arms crossed, and said that to me. I couldn't believe she admitted to cheating so easily, and I was just confused. Stop making that face now. You've ignored me for so long. Scott treats me like a woman, and being with him heals my heart. He's sensitive to current trends since he's a company president, and he's always exciting and fun. I recognized the man's face that Amanda praised. Then it clicked when she mentioned he was a company president. President of XYZ company? The man standing there was the president of a client company I was working with. He had become famous in the industry after starting his business in his 20s. I had visited his company for business and exchanged business cards with him. Why? I asked Amanda. Like I said earlier, that's why, but I don't mind getting a divorce. Hearing the word divorce, I wanted to stop Amanda, but she tried to leave the room with Scott. Hey, are you okay with this? Just ending your marriage so easily? But Amanda said, it doesn't matter anymore, and tried to take him with her. Well, I'll make sure Amanda's happy, so don't worry. Scott flashed a refreshing smile at me and left the room with Amanda. After that, I got a divorce and received alimony. But I became mentally ill and had to take a leave of absence from work for a while. The reason for Amanda cheating was that I prioritized my job and couldn't spend time with her. Amanda started hanging out at bars alone to kill time, where she met Scott. Amanda had a personality that made it easy to get along with people she just met, so it didn't take long for her to get close to Scott. During my time off work, a colleague I had consulted about the cheating before contacted me and told me that Scott's company, which was a client, had withdrawn from New York due to a headquarters relocation. With this, even if I returned to work, there would be no chance of dealing with Scott's company, and I felt a little relieved. Several years passed since those hellish days, and I managed to recover mentally. By a twist of fate, I met a wonderful woman and decided to remarry. I had changed jobs and moved to a rural area, but it was a more comfortable town, with abundant nature compared to the city. My married life was going well, and I was living a peaceful life. But I ended up getting involved in another incident. On a day off, I was out alone, and a police officer called my name and stopped me. Of course, I had no idea I had done anything wrong, but I had a bad feeling, so I decided to go to the police station. When I arrived at the police station and was taken to a room, there was my ex-wife, Amanda, waiting for me. As soon as Amanda saw my face, she started yelling excitingly. Aha, this guy, officer, this guy, he's the stalker. He's been following me around. It's so creepy. Huh? Stalker? What are you talking about? How shameless. There's a limit to how much you can harass someone after breaking up. I couldn't digest what Amanda was saying in the situation, so I asked for an explanation. But Amanda just kept accusing me, and I couldn't see the main point of the story. Then a police officer brought in a man. It was Scott. Hey, I heard from Amanda that you've been quite persistent. It's been years since the divorce. Do you still have feelings for her? I didn't want to hear that from the person who caused the divorce, but I asked the police officer who brought Scott in to explain the situation. It turned out that Amanda had been stalked by someone for a long time, and she had reported me to the police because the stalker's appearance resembled mine. The police investigated and found out that I had recently moved to this town, so they asked me to come in for an interview. I understand the situation, but Amanda, I didn't know you guys were living in this town. Yeah, right. Who would believe a criminal's excuse? I felt anger welling up at Amanda's dismissive words, but the police officer calmed me down. Is there anyone who can prove your innocence? At the police officer's words, I decided to have someone come to the police station. A few minutes later, the person that I chose arrived, and Scott, seeing her face, cried out in astonishment. You, Elizabeth? Hi, big brother. It's been a while. That's right. When I remarried, I married Scott's sister. Scott and Amanda, who didn't know the situation, seemed to be panicking. Actually, Scott's affair with Amanda was discovered by their parents, who cut ties with him. Scott's parents were the presidents of a company that ran several businesses, and knowing that their son had hurt someone, they decided to take care of me. At first, I didn't want to face the family of her lover, but as I got to know them, I felt my heart calming down. After spending time together, I ended up falling in love and marrying Elizabeth, Scott's sister. Are you kidding me? I haven't heard anything about this. Scott yelled at us, but Elizabeth, being used to her brother, argued back. Well, I do have an obligation to inform someone who doesn't even consider us family anymore. Besides, during the time you said Michael's ex-wife was being stalked, He was actually having dinner with me at the hotel's restaurant. You should be able to find our names on the reservation list. And if you ask the sommelier who served us wine, he should be able to confirm it. I was finally cleared of all charges. As we left the police station, grateful to Elizabeth, Amanda and Scott followed us and grabbed Elizabeth's shoulder. Wait a minute. Did you really marry this guy? He failed in the city and ended up in a rural area. You'll regret it if you marry someone like him. That's right, he neglected me a lot when we were married, too. It seems these two will do anything to ruin our happiness. As Elizabeth shook off the hand on her shoulder, a luxury car pulled up in front of the police station. Seeing the person who got out of the car, Scott exclaimed, Oh, Dad? Scott's father glared at his surprised son and said, I have no reason to be called Dad by you. More importantly, it seems you have been quite rude to my daughter and son-in-law. Well, can't be helped, can it? Are you really okay with Elizabeth marrying this loser? What's with your attitude toward the heir to my company? If anyone's a loser, it's you. Your business only succeeded because of good luck, and you've been acting all high and mighty without even understanding proper management. You have no right to badmouth Michael. Yes, I had moved to this town to study as a successor of my father-in-law's business, and had changed jobs to a group company in this town. Defeated, Scott dropped his shoulders, and Amanda desperately tried to talk to him. Hey, what does this mean? You said you'd inherit the company. That's right, Scott's company is doing well, right? If we work hard to grow the company. What? You haven't heard? His company is on the verge of bankruptcy, and considering his excessive spending, he's probably in debt too, isn't he? That's... Scott fell silent. Having been hit with the truth by his father, Elizabeth added the final blow. Big brother, you told Michael's ex-wife that you definitely make her happy. But it seems you're all talk, aren't you? And to believe that, I wonder how much you lack in judgment. And so, the stalking suspicion against my ex-wife was cleared. After that, Scott's company went bankrupt, and Amanda left him at the same time. On the other hand, I've been released from the curse of Amanda and Scott, and I'm living a happy life with Elizabeth.